appreciate the turnout. I know some of us have met just as recently as last night, Glenn counts. This morning we have a couple of things, important things to talk about, one of which occurred over in our Independence Division. Lieutenant Blow's with our Independence Division, Jeremiah Blow, a lot of you know him from out there, and he is going to talk this morning about an arrest his folks, a couple of arrests his folks have made this morning concerning some property crime. We have a couple of prolific property crime offenders who are just doing a number on the Coventry Woods area of town, especially when it comes to larcenies from autos. Just a real spike in larcenies from autos. They had an operation going on out there in the Coventry Woods area over the last week or so, and that really paid off in large part today with a couple of solid arrests. You know, a lot of you may say, oh, you know, we're starting this thing off with larcenies from auto. It's kind of nickel and dime, but I don't think our community realizes they are so much more likely to be the victim of a larceny from auto, of a home break-in, of somebody breaking into your shed and taking your property, thankfully, than the likelihood of them being a victim of a violent crime. So it's just a little bit of context, and they could really help out their own cause so much more than they ever know if they would just heed the message that we continually pound, locking those vehicles up, keeping that merchandise, that expensive stuff, those big ticket items out of plain sight. They could really help themselves out considerably if they would just take matters into their own hands somewhat. I'm not going to steal any of Lieutenant Blow's thunder because his folks just did a tremendous job, and I just want him to illustrate that work for a couple of minutes this morning. Lieutenant Blow from Independence Division.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. My name is Jeremiah Blow. I'm the Patrol Operations Commander in the Independence Division. Just want to talk about some outstanding police work that happened early this morning. The crime trend, let me back up a little bit. The crime trend started about 3 weeks ago in the Coventry Woods community, which is near Independence and Sharon Amity, to give some context of what we're talking about. Cars being broken into and houses being broken into. We had 10 vehicles broken into and 5 homes. So we instituted a directed patrol, have officers out in the target area. Due to some outstanding witness and citizen work, we had a suspect description, gave that out to the officers. And about 1:30 this morning, Officer Hanson, which is a 3rd shift patrol officer, saw someone matching that suspect description sitting on the side of the road at an intersection at 1:30 in the morning. Got out with him, started talking with him, learned that he was a juvenile, and he was in fact in violation of the Youth Protection Ordinance. So he made an arrest of that juvenile for that. Later on, about an hour and a half later, encountered another subject, matched the suspect description, got out with him. It was in possession of stolen property from multiple car break-ins, and he ended up confessing to those crimes. Overall, this is great work by the patrol officers, by the Crime Analysis Division, and the good communication among the team to solve these crimes. Currently, we're investigating 8 vehicles that are broken into in the overnight hours. So we just want to tell folks that live in or around Coventry Woods, Independence, Sharon Amity area, check your vehicles. If anything's broken into or you're missing any property, please let us know. You can call us directly at the Independence Division at 336-2890, or feel free anytime to call Crime Stoppers, of course. That's all I have. Any questions for me?
So you said the 2 suspects are responsible for a total of 10 vehicle break-ins and 5 homes?
Currently, right now, we're looking at 8 cases, but the investigation is ongoing. So we've had 10 in the last 3 weeks that started this operation, and last night they did 8 more, and we're investigating those to see if they are related.
So both are juveniles?
One's a juvenile, one is not.
What's the age of the juvenile?
15. And the 18-year-old is his older brother.
So what does it say? I mean, in terms of the method here, Rob was talking about lock your cars. I mean, was this a situation where they were just going around pulling off car doors to see what was locked and what was it? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yes, sir. It's out, at 1 in the morning, walking. Every car that they pass is unlocked. They open it and take everything that's inside the car. So we're not talking, sometimes we'll have these trends where laptops, handguns, big items are taken. So we stress, please take those items out of your car. But the items people forget, is the bunch of silver change or whatever in your cup holder or in your ashtray. Your credit cards, we've seen social security cards, credit cards, checkbooks, sunglasses, any item you can think of, we've recovered this morning.
Lieutenant, is it me or is this like summertime increase because these young folks would otherwise be not in school at that hour, but certainly have school, maybe? I mean, does it pick up in the summer since it's a seasonal thing?
It does pick up, but we have LFAs year-round. So we stress the same message, school in, school out. If there's nothing in your car and your car's locked, you're not going to be a victim of LFA.
What was the total dollar amount of these items that were taken, or cash, or whatever it was?
We're still working through all that. We've got this huge table with all the property we're working through. We'll let you know. Right now, we're still processing everything.
So is there many other spikes in other areas of the city of the same kind of crime?
I can speak to the Independence Division, and Coventry Woods is our biggest spike area right now.
Okay.
So just to clarify the numbers, you said these two that were arrested overnight, you think they are solely responsible for the 5 home break-ins and the 8 cars, and you had 2 more overnight?
So to clarify, last night we had 8 cars broken into. In the last 3 weeks, we had 10 cars in 5 homes. We're investigating to see if these suspects are linked to those. So the detectives are working right now. We actually have 3 detectives on it working and interviewing those folks and reviewing all the evidence.
So is that a total of 18 cars?
Yes, ma'am, in that target area. Yes, ma'am.
In 5 homes.
5 homes, yes, sir.
Is this the kind of crime where they'd probably likely be out on the street again and potentially doing the same thing? I mean, they're not going to go away for a long time, right?
We process them and send them to the judicial system with the best evidence possible. So,
And with that, we are going to shift gears. And
Thank you.
what we'd like to do is get you out something in writing sometime later this morning. In fact, I understand that Officer Tritley is working on that as we speak. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So we start this endeavor back in February. We start calling these weekly briefings, and always searching for new and interesting and meaningful content, subject matter that we can get out to the community. A couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to sit down at a board meeting with our Crime Stoppers board. First of all, just a tremendous amount of number of community-minded individuals on that board, selfless individuals who devote a lot of their time, efforts to keeping our community safe. So I can't say enough about this board. But, what really struck me in that meeting, that lunch that we had, was some of the numbers, some of the success that's coming out of Crime Stoppers. I mean, it was just eye-opening, revealing, blew me away. And I'm saying to myself, gosh, if I don't know the success that our Crime Stoppers program is involved in, surely the media doesn't know what kind of successful program we have here, and then ultimately, I guess our community doesn't know, right? So in just a minute, a lot of you know Detective Roddy. He's with Crime Stoppers. He's our Crime Stoppers liaison. Detective Roddy is going to be a constant on Wednesdays from now on. I'm going to bring him up in a couple of minutes. He's going to talk about those numbers, that success. A lot of departments, they really harp on the fact that they don't get that community buy-in, that we can't do this alone, right? This is a collective effort when it comes to public safety and crime fighting, that we all have ownership in that endeavor. We are in a fortunate position with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department where we really don't experience much of that. In fact, we're getting considerable buy-in from our community, especially when it comes to our Crime Stoppers program. I want to say we're up 22% in tips alone just this year, and I'm not going to steal Roddy's thunder, Detective Roddy's thunder, but people are calling, and they're getting involved, and I tell you what, it's making a difference. You're going to be really impressed with some of that involvement and what it means for public safety. When I say he's going to be available every Wednesday from now, what we'd like to do is we'd really like to bring some exposure to the program and leverage it even more. And in doing that, every week now, we are either going to have a fugitive or we're going to have a case that we need the public's help in assisting with, and we're going to get that off to a start this morning with a couple of individuals that we're looking for in an armed robbery case. So without further delay, Detective Roddy, he's with our Crime Stoppers program.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm Detective Roddy, of course. Robbie's already said I'm the liaison for Crime Stoppers, going on 3 years now. And like he said, he was at the board meeting this past month. And once he heard the numbers, he was like, oh my God, we need to get this out. So we don't take credit for any of this because it's the public that's calling, it's the public that's texting us, it's the public that's emailing us, giving us all this information. So they're, like you said, they're buying into the program, and the proof is right here that we're having, matter of fact, year to date, this is the largest amount of information, tips, arrests that we've received ever since we started keeping the data. So go back into what he said, we're talking about 22% increase on tips this year alone. We're at 1655 already. Arrests, we're already up 12%. We're up to 140 arrests already. Fugitive, 66%. We're talking about 18% increase from last year. And then a whopping 264% increase on drug seized this year alone. We're talking about $110,000 worth of drugs that have been seized just by people calling in, giving us information about these drug houses, about people who's planting marijuana, growing it in the backyard. You have it. We've had all these type of different cases that we've gone in, investigated, and made huge drug arrests. So, also,
I don't want to steal any thunder, Roddy. Can you talk a little bit about some of the arrests? You know, this isn't nickel and dime kind of stuff. You know, another homicide
right.
Suspects.
Right, and it goes, when we're talking about arrests, we're talking everything from fugitive to misdemeanors to our high-profile cases like homicides. For this year alone, we've already assisted on 5 homicides where people have called in and gave us information on who did the homicide. Compared to last year, we had 5 total. We're already at 5 starting on August 2nd. So that tells you how the volume is coming in and how the community is stepping up to the plate and giving us information. And for example, other violent crimes, armed robberies. Last year we had a total of 16 to 18 that we assisted on. We're already at 17 this year. And that we're talking about a huge increase of the community giving back and giving us information. So I can give you numbers all day, but I want to give you a current example of a case that we just solved that Crime Stoppers pretty much gave it to the detective. All he had to do was a little bit of work. Back on March 19th, at the Red 28 Hookah Lounge, there was a bar fight, and a guy stabbed 5 people. I don't know if you guys remember, 2 of them injuries were life-threatening. We gave you guys a picture of the suspect. A couple of months ago, we finally got somebody called in, gave us who the guy was, turned it over to the detective. He investigated. Not only did we find out Alden Lawrence was the guy that did the stabbing, but we also were able to catch him boarding a plane to Jamaica with a ton of money in his pocket and a bunch of clothes, probably not coming back. So this is a high-profile case that, of course, we want to thank the community for, because, hey, this guy was gone after committing that heinous crime. Also, like Mr. Fano said, we are also in the make of doing this Wanted Wednesday. I just came up with Wanted Wednesday. We might change the name, but we're gonna highlight these cases each week. You know, I'm not gonna tell you each week is gonna be a hard-nosed criminal. It might be a B&E person. It might be a property theft. But we're gonna try to do as many cases as we can each week to bring it to the public's eye. This week in general, we're starting about with a case that happened back on June 27th of this year. A guy, victim, was on what is that place? Offer Up, in communication with an unknown person about selling his iPhone 7. Back and forth. They finally meet up. Lord and behold, you know what happens. It's a female and a male, meets him, robs him by gunpoint, takes the iPhone and other property. Later, after detectives got the case, did their magic, and was able to identify the 2 suspects, which end up being a Jessica Williams and a Darius Williams. They are still outstanding warrants for this armed robbery. And Lord behold, these 2 are husband and wife, so we have a live Barney and Clyde situation here. So they have relatives in Charlotte area and Gastonia area. Shout out to Gastonia people. We need the information. We need to find out these 2 fugitives and get them to justice. Any questions?
Detective, where did the armed robbery happen at?
The Waterfoot Lakes in the Steel Creek division. I'm sorry.
Just in the apartment area?
In the apartment complex, yeah. Yeah, in the parking lot. Any questions?
Detective Roddy, with all the increased traffic and all the community stepping up, Do you have data on what the payout situation is? Like, are people
This
cashing in
year,
on
this
now?
year alone, we've approved 36,000 worth of payouts. 23,000 people have been paid. So, $23,000 worth of money have been paid out, but 36,000 has been approved. So that amount, again, is the largest year-to-date that we've ever paid out in July.
Devil's advocate question. You've had 5 people assist on homicides.
Correct.
The homicide rate does happen to be almost double what it was last year.
True.
Is it one of those opportunities that there are more
True.
crimes to report on?
True, but we want to concentrate on what the public is doing. I understand, yeah, there's an increase in homicides, so of course, you're probably going to have an increase. But the main thing we're saying here is the community is backing us. They're giving us the information that we need. We're able to investigate it, and it's just showing the impact they have been doing to make our streets safer.
Do you think that's the reason that you've been getting more calls overall, that there's a perception out there that crime is up, and so the public is responding like, we need to help you more?
Well, no, I think the public always has that responsibility, and they're willing to contribute whenever they can to help out. So I can't say whether it's, this perception of increased crime or not, but, we just want to congratulate and say we do appreciate and show you guys the impact that you have, as well as the community have, in making our streets safe.
So do you have any advice for people who are having transactions like off Craigslist or whatever, for, a safer?
Right, and I think somebody has discussed this before prior to on a press conference, but yeah, simple things that they can do to make sure they're safe, making sure they're meet in a well-lit area, make sure they have someone with them. Make sure, hopefully, you would try to do it during the day and in an area where there's a lot of people. Those are some simple things that everybody can do to prevent themselves from becoming a victim.
Is this couple connected? Is there any chance they're connected? There's been other app-related robberies.
Right, but we don't know of any more connected with them, so I can't say. But definitely we have them for this one.
Can you explain, because I mean, when you say that assisted in 5, does that mean that, and maybe Rob, when they say you've assisted in 5, does that mean that you guys have been responsible, the tips have been responsible to leading to the arrest, or is
Right, the tips, when a lot of times the homicide detectives get this information, and of course they got to investigate it. So a lot of times they might get their jump up name, right? They might get their nickname. They might get their first name and not the last name. So and sometimes they give them the whole name. So a lot of times this information, of course, they have to investigate it to make sure, get probable cause or what have you. But it's that type of information that assists in getting these guys locked up.
Is that where you were trying to go then?
Yeah.
Because I think what he's trying to say is that 5 cases, homicide apprehensions, were directly connected to Crime Stoppers tips.
The information. They wouldn't have been able to make that arrest, put it that way.
Who else?
Let me ask a sort of a bigger question, maybe, Rodney. You talk about trust in the community.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly came front and center last fall. Can you sense that there is an increasing level of trust? Is the trust still there? Is it growing in the police department? The trust from the community in the police department?
Well, I can only speak from the Crime Stopper perspective, and I'd say the trust is there because of the increase in the numbers.
I'd be happy to talk about that more globally.
Thanks, everybody, for your...
Well, stand by too, because I'm sure that this could kind of buttress off what you were saying a little bit. What's even more impressive about the number of tips that we're getting, and I don't know if this is anecdotal or if this is something that's empirical, but how many individuals are eligible for a cash reward that don't even pick their cash reward up? Right? So it's not just about the money that's driving this thing, right? Although it is a handsome reward, especially when you're talking about homicide suspects that we're looking for. The payout's $5,000 for up to $5,000 for a homicide suspect. But I think it's just a testament to the character and the community mindedness of our folks in town when a lot of them aren't even picking up the reward. I think it's them just wanting to help us, wanting to be a partner in crime fighting, them wanting to have this kind of ownership when it comes to public safety. So is it all money driven? Well, I would suspect that, that's the root to some of it. But I also think it's just a testament to the partnership, to the trust, to the relationship that we have with our community. I know it was kind of twisty-turny the way that I got there, Mark. So I just don't want everybody to be walking away and saying, it's just all about the money. There's some truth to that, but I think it's about the relationships too, and I think it's about the trust and them wanting to make their community a safer community.
The department has made an increased effort to be more transparent as of these weekly pressers. Do you guys see an empirical impact of that so far?
Yeah, you have things like last night, and I know a number of you were at National Night Out events last night, which, by the way, I've only been here for a short 8 years with the department, but for all appearances, I don't think I've seen a more well-attended National Night Out with various events from across the city. Can I quantify that with statistics, Steve? No, but just in informal conversations with the public and that support that we feel we're getting when we're out at events like this, I'm an optimist. I feel like we do have the support of the community. Do we have the support of all the community? Of course not. Police organizations, they traditionally struggle with trust and legitimacy and those kind of things. That's something we strive for, consistently, routinely, and will continue to. Chief is a big proponent, and one of his favorite terms is, it's hard to hate us up close once you get to know us, and I think we're starting to see the fruits of some of that.
So going off with the trust conversation and relationship, so, even when we go out, say a crime happens in an immigrant community, East Charlotte.
Sure.
What we still hear is that people don't want to call police because they're afraid, say I don't have a status, illegal immigrant, I
Sure.
don't want to call police, they're going to turn me in.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
do you still have that issue, or is
Sure.
that getting better?
Sure.
Or what kind of message would you send to, a huge immigrant population?
Well, look, a couple of things to unpack there. I think that's not unique to Charlotte, and I certainly, and you know what, and I'll even go a step further, I don't think, well, let's just take the Latino community. I don't think that distrust is unique to law enforcement. I think it's relevant to lending institutions and banks. They don't trust banks. They don't trust law enforcement, traditionally. I don't know if it's rooted in where they come from, the places they come from, why that trust exists, but we're not foolish enough to believe that we have the Latino community won over. That's something we continually work at and building that trust with them. And, this could come from where their origin is. It could come from what they read or hear. I think we bend over backwards to try to ensure them that that's not what we're here for. Things like 287G and the like. If they are a victim of a crime, we need to know about it. We can't bring any resolution to anyone if we don't know about it. And that's the message that we constantly try to underscore.
Rob, if I may turn the direction, I see Captain Dozier out there. And
Yes, Brunel Smith. Brunel Smith, is that where you're going?
Yeah, Pete Smith.
He's psychic.
Yeah, no, and it's important stuff, and that's exactly why we have Chris Dozier here this morning. I know Glenn was here last night as well as a number of others. Chris is here. Any questions, Jeff? I don't think there's a heck of a lot of development since the last time that we convened, but Chris is here nonetheless, so let's get Captain Dozier here.
Good morning.
Morning.
What questions do you have?
Yesterday you spoke with us, God bless you, thank you very much. What was still going on, he since has been transported, you had a chance to talk to him. Was he forthcoming in his interview?
Well, we obviously can't talk about anything that he said in the interview. There's just nothing really more to say as far as his statement to the detectives.
We heard in his court appearance that it actually began on Tuesday evening, and this went on for a day and a half. It's just expanded, got far more horrific than we even knew, I think, initially.
Right. Yeah, the initial contact with the family was on Tuesday evening and went into Friday morning. As far as any more details on that, I can't really talk about that because it's part of the investigation, but it did start Tuesday evening when the first initial contact was made at the victim's house.
So was he hiding out? How did he manage to avoid capture?
We don't know exactly what he was doing during his time when we were looking for him. I just know that we did get a lot of information from a lot of different sources, and VCAT was very diligent in trying to find him. Fortunately, he did make the decision, hopefully based on the pressure and understanding that we were out there looking for him to turn himself in, so he did the right thing.
Was there anybody that he was either in communication with, a family member, a friend? Was there somebody that was basically leaning on him to say, hey, you need to give yourself up?
I can only speculate on that. There was no contact, there was a very small window of any contact with anybody that we understood after the murders occurred. There was nothing that we could utilize to find his whereabouts. So contact was very limited.
Have we found a car?
Yes, we did.
I know the police report showed that the victim was tied up. Can you talk about anything about, was she able to escape on that Friday and how she was able to call from the hospital or anything that led up to that?
Right. She was able to free herself and drive herself to the hospital. Obviously, in this emotional state she was, physical state, that was her option. Her first thought was to get to safety, and that was how she did so, was to go to the hospital immediately after she was able to do that.
Had she been tied up for 2 days previous?
Again, I can't discuss those specific details.
Can you say why he surrendered? Did he indicate, was he just tired of all of this? Was he
Again,
just
yeah,
tired, Rob?
I can't say. I can only speculate as to his reasonings, why he made the decision and when he did. Again, I can only say that we were putting a lot of pressure on him. We were in constant contact with family members and people who may be in contact with him to turn himself in and to have a peaceful resolution. That's what occurred. So we're very happy with that.
Well, I know you can't talk specifically about what he said to you, but can you just indicate to us whether or not he indicated to you why he did what he did and why he turned himself in? Did he tell you guys?
Yeah. Well, just to speak on the motive. Honestly, the brutality of what occurred, I don't think there's any justification whatsoever that he could give us or anybody as to what happened. So.
Do you have any indication that while he was on the run, did he ever try to go out of state or actively try to flee far away from Charlotte?
There's nothing that I can say that indicated that, although we were in contact with other agencies and put that out nationwide. But there's always that possibility, and we always prepare for that and make sure that other agencies, that we get this information out to everybody.
Chris, last question for me. It's not unusual for you guys to come back and charge someone later with accessory after the fact in a situation like this.
Yeah.
Poor guy's gone for a while. Yeah, do you anticipate that in this case?
Not in this case, no.
And with that, we'll let Captain Dozier get about his business. And there's not a lot in the way of developments, and a lot of the territory that you guys were asking to cover is something that'll have to be discussed when we begin to litigate this case. I will say this though, and I'm sure Chris would agree, as would most supervisors up there in that unit. Are we ever going to bring Mr. and Mrs. Gordon back? Absolutely not. Ms. Smith, Keitra Smith, the surviving family member, the daughter of those two people. To have resolution like that or like this for her, again, we can never bring her parents back, but she and her family need to be heartened to know that you've got some of the most skilled, empathetic, urgent investigators working on this case, and they're going to do anything and everything they can to bring this to a successful resolution. So I think that's the only kind of, I don't know if it's a consolation, I don't know if it's any kind of closure, but I'm impressed by the work our people do, and I think they too will soon be impressed by the kind of work that they're going to see that's going to be undertaken on behalf of her parents. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, Rob, just a couple different questions about different topics.
What emails did you send in?
I don't know if my desk did, but just, are we okay?
Well, I'm gonna fly in the dark here with not having any preparation, so just bear with me.
Story about police departments weighing in on the president's comments
Sure.
just a few days ago, encouraging the police departments not to be nice to inmates or prisoners. Just wondering if CMPD has a response to that.
Yeah, I think I've got more of a generic response. I think the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department will continue to serve our community with professionalism and integrity.
Anyone else?
Does this change anything? I mean, do you think those comments, the president's comments, are helpful, hurtful, anything?
I think that the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, we make a tremendous effort to serve our community with professionalism and integrity.
And unrelated question, with PGA this weekend?
Yes.
Is there a concern about sex trafficking? We know that's been happening across the country. Can you talk about the big crowds and any kind of concern CMPD has?
Yeah, crowds are always an issue, and that is an issue that's becoming more and more prevalent when you see these larger scale events. I do know that we work very closely with our federal, local, state counterparts to do anything
it is that we can to prevent that kind of activity from occurring. I don't have any intimate knowledge of anything that's afoot right now, but I do know traditionally we have those strong working relationships with our law enforcement counterparts from the federal, local, and state level.
Hey Rob, we're gonna cover a few different stories here. So last week in Charlotte, ICE did a targeted operation going after people with criminal records.
Sure.
So when they do that, is CMPD notified? Do they tell you what's gonna happen? Do they ask you for help? Is there
Yeah,
any?
I don't think, you'd have to bring me those cases so I could, talk with a little bit of intimate knowledge on it. I just don't know what cases you're referring to, but I'll be more than happy to follow up.
In general, if there's like an operation going on by a federal agency that's immigration enforcement agency, do you get any sort of heads up or do you play any role in that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we were involved or had any kind of, well, I do know, I'd like to know if we were involved. I'd like to think that I'd know if we were involved, but I could go back and check to see if they gave us any kind of heads up as to what they were doing. What did ICE tell you when you called ICE?
I mean, everything happened last week. It was a nationwide thing, so they did come to different Charlotte neighborhoods to do that, but it was part of a nationwide.
And you know what, I think what probably a good approach would maybe to, speak with the agency who's conducting the operation, because I'm sure they're a lot more familiar with their operation than an agency who's doesn't belong to that operation or that operation doesn't belong to. So, I mean, I'm trying to evade, but if you want to follow up with me afterwards, I'll be more than happy to do a little background and research and find out exactly what role, if any, I don't suspect there was any, we had in it.
I just saw another police report this morning. I've seen a few of these, and maybe you don't have immediate knowledge of this, but just anything general, if you've seen this crime where people, the same MO, where people are kidnapping, robbing, and assaulting. It happened, I saw a report today, there was another one a couple days ago. Do you know anything about that kind of MO, or have you heard anything about that?
No, I mean, unfortunately, over the overnight, within a 24-hour period, we're looking at upwards of 1,500 to 2,000 reports, and I'd like to think I've got a pretty good finger on the pulse of what's developing here in the organization, but I just, I'd be hard-pressed to know every report that's coming across our records window. So I'd be more than happy, again, to follow up with you, to try to get to the bottom of what it is, what it involved, and some of the specifics. I would encourage everyone, and I know I sound like a broken record, we can't help you unless you help us by giving us this information on the front end. Let's just take that report, and this is no scolding or anything else, believe me. Rob, we're interested in report number 123. What's that all about? I could go ahead and look up report 123, try to get all the information, and then have a educated, knowledgeable response for you instead of just, I'm flying by the seat of my pants here, pal. You know what I mean?
All right. I understand that you don't, I actually just picked up one of the reports about a half hour ago, so.
Yeah.
But I know, whenever possible.
And I want to, honestly, and it's not lip service, I really want to help as much as we can. I mean, that's the whole meaning of getting these things together. I'm sure that you guys have better things that you could be doing. We don't want to stand here like potted plants, right? We want to have some relevant information to release, but you could help us out tremendously if you could just give us a little bit of lead time and allow us to do some of that research. All right? Who else? And I'm not just singling out Alex. We've had some issues with that. Okay, Ben, did you have something?
Oh, good.
You're getting shifty. All right, good. All right, we'll see you next go around.
Rob, you just spell the names of the lieutenant and detective's names?
Yes, Jeremiah. You're gonna ask me to spell Jeremiah? Let me see. Jeremiah. Blow. BLOW. And Roddy. Detective Roddy. Roddey. And I believe his first name is
Torriarno.
Oh, my God.
Scott Grossman, ladies and gentlemen. Scott Grossman.
Lieutenant did mention a table.